City Council regular meeting into order on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. And we'll have our roll call, beginning with Callahan.
Callahan here.
Rodriguez here.
Dennis here.
Frazier here.
McShann here.
Gibson here.
Swain here. Onlato here.
Let it show that all council members are here except for Ms. Kozanowski. And Mayor Pro Tem Brazier, you will do our invocation.
Can I make a motion that you need?
Oh, yes.
Or
Well,
not?
she didn't.
She hasn't said call.
Said she may still be here.
Yeah.
We can do that later.
Okay, fine.
If she called, she hadn't called me though.
Okay.
Let us pray. Thank you for the many blessings you grant us each and every day and for allowing us to gather together here. Please be with us and help us make sound decisions, not for ourselves, but for our constituents and our citizens within this great city of Elgin. Please forgive us of our many sins and get us all home safely this evening. Please continue to guide and direct us to your glory. It's in your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, we have our public hearing on a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, approving a strategic partnership agreement with Prima Vista Land Company, LLC, and the city.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a hearing on an agenda item we'll be acting on later, a strategic partnership agreement. We've done a couple of these already before in the city. In this case, it's basically a commitment on the part of the developer to, we'll get into more detail about this later, to comply with city subdivision regulations, even though they won't be annexed into the city. They actually would annex to the city if they could, but it's not contiguous to city limits at this time. So we're doing a strategic partnership agreement to make sure that their standards will be the same as all other city developments.
Okay, we don't have anyone signed up or public comment.
Just the two you got.
It wasn't on this one.
Yeah.
Public hearing is what I should have said,
Yep.
I'm sorry. Public hearing. Okay. All right, we'll move on to our,
Close.
oh, that's right. We close our public hearing now. And we'll move on to the public comment. Our public comment is the time that City Council regarding posted agenda items or non-agenda items, individuals request to speak and address the City Council during the meeting shall do so under public comment agenda item. As of May 1st, 2022, all such public comments will be done in person, and you may email public comments, and they will be distributed to each of the council members, but not read out loud. The speaker comments are limited to 3 minutes, and Jennifer has a little timer that will go off when your 3 minutes are up. Okay. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor or presiding officer rather than to an individual council member or staff member. All speakers must limit their comments to specific subject matter on the comment form and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory comments directed at any council member, staff member, or other individuals or group. We have Wes Callis to speak. If you would state your name.
Good evening. My name is Wes Calais. As a business owner in town, I'm curious to what the city and the police department is doing to curb the increase in violence inside our small community. In the last year, we've seen more shootings than we have the entire time I've lived here. In the last 10 days, I've witnessed more arrests on my street alone than ever before. I'm curious to what it takes to actually get a response from city officials. In the last 2 years, I've made countless calls to City Hall in reference to all rules and more concerning food trucks and restaurant-style businesses. Not one single call has been returned. I've contacted 3 separate council members about these issues as well. Not one return call. In the last week, I've contacted our police chief 3 times now in regards to trying to put together a neighborhood-type watch group and/or a watch group for the school. I'm also curious to why there are 0 SROs in the school. Not one call has been returned by any of these members. As we all know about the violence inside our schools, one has to wonder if some of this is the result of the failures our leadership has provided. I've sat at these meetings and listened to a pile of things ranging from city parties to public parks. What I haven't heard discussed is how we are going to stop or at least slow down the violence. I would also like to ask when this council is going to stop worrying about filling our town with fast food and start bringing in merchandise and clothing stores. We're in 2023 and we live in a town of 11,000 people. Yet we have to drive 30 minutes for basic necessities. There is legitimately 4 places in town to buy clothing: Tractor Supply, Walmart, Vintage Retro, and the Lions Club. Instead of gaining tax revenue and more off this one simple need, we are enabling our neighbors with growth and not ourselves. Along with the need for clothing, we need appliances. It's my understanding the only place to get appliances in town will be closing soon. It's secondhand appliances at best. With this being said, in my own opinion, our council feels its citizens are only secondhand people. The reason I say that is all this council is offering our beautiful town is secondhand items. Then we have the entire hate and bullying issue. This issue is not only in our schools, it's in our town. Yes, many will say I'm a bully. That's not the case. I have a real problem with stupid. I've witnessed so many lies get circulated about me and others in this town, it's comical. Only a small percentage is willing to actually sit down and chat. Most want to make up lies, fabricate false narratives, and defend most of the people sitting in front of me. Why is that? Can you as a council say you have done right by your constituents? Can you say that you've done your absolute best to make our town safer and better? Can any of you say you've done the most to protect the children and the youth of this community? Did it ever cross any of your minds that most in this town are tired of all of it? As council, what have you done to ensure as citizens we won't lose basic needs such as water in bad weather? I come from a town that has been riddled and demolished by multiple hurricanes over the last 20 years. We would only lose water. Is that my time?
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Stephanie Lipke?
Still going to need those to read. Okay, good evening. Madam Mayor, my name is Stephanie Lipke. I live at 1112 North Main here in Elgin. Madam Mayor, as you have already been informed, the city manager refused the superintendent's request to retract and fix the EPD statement. An EISD board member called me today with this info. Listen Krem stated on Facebook it was a fire panel malfunction. He also goes on to state that he was the one that originally gave EPD the wrong information and fell on that information and said it needed to be fixed. And as an Emergency Service District 1 board member, I guess he would have that information. We need a solid and supportive relationship with the city manager and the EISD superintendent. I realize you cannot direct the city manager to do anything, but you can admonish him for failing to retract false information. Madam Mayor, you have the power to contradict the false information and state the city manager misspoke in a press release and correct that information. The city's watching. Thank you for your time.
Mayor, under the state law, under public comments, the council allowed to correct mistakes that were made. I never issued any public statement about anything to do with anything with this issue. So that's just a false allegation that's made. Untrue. The police department issued statements as were appropriate, but that whole occurrence is saying, I'm not responding to what you said. I'm correcting a mistake, and you're out of order speaking.
Point of order, please.
I'm allowed to respond to incorrect information provided that was incorrect. Mayor. The first item under the city manager's report is we just wanted to make sure council is aware that the budget process is beginning. We've started that process for the staff, and then we're following a schedule that's pretty comparable to what we followed before, where we allow the charter requirements and our regular scheduled council meetings to try to align with the budget process. I think the key dates for council will be the first meeting in June, which will be presenting the 5-year capital plan, the proposed plan. There'll be a work session on June 13th, and then a public hearing on the 5-year capital plan on June 20th, with the final adoption of the capital plan on July 11th. The budget is then presented on August 1st, and we have tentatively scheduled 3 Tuesday work sessions for the council, August 8th, August 22nd, and September 12th. We've typically scheduled 3 work sessions each year for council, but have not necessarily needed those. So just wanted you to be aware that those are the dates and that we're starting that process. We don't anticipate this year to be a particularly difficult year, budgetarily speaking. We continue to see very positive revenue flow, and the challenge won't be for us to continue to find ways to reduce our costs, but simply to add to the service levels that people are looking for us to do. So, unless anybody had any questions, and as you recall, those work sessions, when we come down to it, we usually, those are tentative dates. Like I said, we just try to hit whatever the schedule is for everybody and we'll talk about that after August 1st when the budget's presented. Yeah, I'll send those out, sure. Okay, next item on the agenda was our report on debris collection. I didn't get a chance to make a slide today like I thought I would, but we just wanted to acknowledge the great work by our staff in this event, responding to the storm, the winter storm, and debris collection. We talk a lot about different points of history that we are making here in Elgin, and this is another one. This is truly a historic response by city forces to the first time ever, I think, in the city's history to do curbside collection of storm debris, and it's a service that I know the vast majority of our citizens really appreciated. The vast majority of our citizens were very patient with us to make sure we made the rounds. And it was a great effort by our team that obviously starts with our leadership. We have a few people here tonight. Rodney and Carol Jarman, you all want to stand up. And Terry is in the back. They are leaders, unlike me, who I think it's really cool to come to a council meeting and be recognized. None of the other guys wanted to come. They don't care about that stuff. So we're figuring out another way to recognize them, and we're going to be doing that. But I know our team will also say our Michael Gonzalez, who's our TV producer as well, there in the back, was a real key to this effort. And it's Michael's leadership and the team's leadership that got this work done. I think one thing that really impressed me on this response was that we thought about, as you remember, different opportunities, different ways to address this problem. But one thing that struck me during the storm, when I went out and saw the crews working, I got from them, it wasn't just about doing their job. They were committed to cleaning up the town. This is their town, their operation. That meant a lot to them, so that's why we took the approach that we did. I think we all didn't realize how big a job it was when we started. And I think we learned in the process that most everybody we talked to, from the county judge, our commissioner, different people around us, that Elgin, for whatever reason, did have the most debris, I think, of any city. So I know some people have compared responses, but for the team that had probably the least amount of resources and the largest amount of per capita debris, I thought we did an outstanding job. So I asked Amy, she's got a few numbers to share with you that I just thought we'd get on the record.
Okay. So our Public Works Department, working to implement a plan that was endorsed by the mayor and city council, collected 13,800 cubic yards of storm debris since Winter Storm Mara in February, and had major cleanup efforts in 5 city parks and at 4 city facilities. The overall debris in the community was collected curbside from individual homes. In the wake of the storm, we did, throughout the county, the general assessment was that we had the largest per capita accumulation of debris. We did not have an appropriate location for the debris to be dropped off, and our staffing resources could not provide for a drop-off and curbside collection. And as Tom said, this is the first time that we've conducted this sort of operation. In our Development Services Department, we waived 32 permits and expedited 32 energization reviews. And we had 1 additional permit waiver that were all related to Winter Storm Mara. There had been a purchase approved for a wood chipper and a chipper truck of $170,000 by our council in January. And when we received that in March, we used it with a 15-yard dump trailer and a grapple attachment on an existing Kubota tractor that made the brush collection operations much more efficient and effective, and is actually a really cool, like, you kind of feel like you're on Bob the Builder when you see the guys working with it. It's very nifty machinery. Our Public Works employees dedicated 4,238 hours of staff time to that debris collection, and we have ourselves now wrapped up. We have completed collecting everything that was put out under the guidelines we provided. And if folks do still have debris, or if they have debris from some spring trimming that they implemented, et cetera, there is a bulk collection coming up in June 12th to the 16th. And the guidelines for that are on our website. And of course, there are, as there have been, there are private sector contractors who can help if folks have any debris remaining.
Thanks, Amy. Once again, a great effort. We're comfortable saying that this effort by our staff saved citizens probably $300,000, if not more, that we could have spent with more equipment. But it's a great job. I know the council appreciates it, and we just wanted to share that with you.
Tom, could I make a comment along this regard? Speaking for the council, I just want to say how much I appreciate the Public Works group and all the hard work that they put into this. On the morning of the storm, I look out and there's flashing lights right down the road from me at 6 o'clock in the morning because a tree had fallen up. No telling how long they'd been there, but a tree had fallen across 9th Street and across utility lines and all, and they were doing what they could to secure that situation. So I went out about 6 o'clock and greeted them, told them appreciate it, and by 8 o'clock, my pecan tree was laying across Main Street. And so I think all of you are pretty well aware of which pecan tree that was. But anyway, it wasn't any time that Terry was there with his crew and a big tractor to take that pecan tree, lift it up, and rotate it, and drop it in my gutter without knocking down my mailbox. I told him, I said, just be careful, don't knock down the mailbox. And he did that. Well, so, they worked like yeomen, just really hard getting all of this done. I was so excited on the day that they were on the last road, which was Magoni. I went over and got, what's her name? Anyway, so sorry, Sonia, thank you. I went over and got Sonia. I said, Sonia, they're doing the last street. You need to go over there. And she did. She posted. Well, last week, the first tree that fell, I think, or about the first tree that they helped with, was the last tree that they got out. And so they were out getting the trunk and the root ball from start to finish, what y'all did.
Thank you. All right. Malin wasn't, our finance director, wasn't able to be here tonight, but we just wanted on the record that you've received the second quarter investment report. If you have any questions about that, just forward those on to me, and I'll get them addressed. And then finally, just wanted to mention real quick that I assume everybody knows that it's a big day Saturday when the grand opening of the Circle Brewing project here in town. We're very excited. Some of us were out last week at a chamber event they had there, and it's the owners are very excited that they're finally done, and I think Saturday is going to be a really big day. Amy's and Jennifer, I think, have reached out to you all about maybe helping with our information booth, but if you haven't been there yet to see it, I encourage everybody to come out and welcome the Circle Brewing team and see this great asset they've developed for the city. Unless anybody had questions for me, Mayor, that's my report.
Okay, going on to our consent agenda. The City Council regular meetings are for April the 4th, 2023. A resolution of the City of Elgin authorizing the city manager to approve professional services fees for FGM Architects related to Elgin Police Department Station project. And then that is it. So we have no concerns or pulling anything from that. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve both items on the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, second by Callahan. And we'll begin with Brazier.
Frazier, yes.
McShane, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Swain, yes. Monado, yes. Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes?
All right, motion carries. Now we have our new business. Resolution by the City Council of the City of Elgin, Texas, approving a license agreement between the City of Elgin and the Elgin Economic Development Corporation and GRBK Edgewood LLC, and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is another business development agreement the EDC has reached with prospective business. And as we know, all EDC businesses are required to be reviewed and approved by the City Council. So Owen's here to brief you on this project.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, Council members, City Manager. So you can see this aerial view here of the the current signage on Swenson Boulevard going out to 290. What we will be doing is working with the developer of Trinity Ranch, and they will take over the signage and to build it, construct the new sign, and to maintain it in the future. So what they're going to do is extend the sign so there will be no left turn out of Bull Run. And that's because we're going to have a light on 290, and it would be, according to our engineers, it would be dangerous to keep that left turn there, so we're extending that, so for that safety. I got input from our city attorney, got info from our city engineer and our development services director as far as the agreement itself. Here's an image of what the sign is going to look like. So you can see the entranceway into Trinity Ranch, but we'll also have a sign there still for the businesses in the business park itself. So any business in there will have a sign up on that. The cost of this, it's going to be, the total cost of all the signage just going into Trinity Ranch is about $475,000. The part that's actually in the city limits, because Trinity Ranch is right on the edge of our city limits, is about $275,000 for this sign. And it'll be paid for by the developer, and it will be current and future maintained by the HOA out there. So if there's any questions, I can answer them. But it's staff would certainly recommend this. It takes the EDC was maintaining that sign with the help of the Public Works Department, so it takes a huge cost from the city taxpayers.
Yeah, and I think one thing we just want to keep in mind is right here at Bull Run, now you can come out here and make a left turn when this sign is in place that you'll no longer be able to make a left turn out of there. Now, again, as Owen said, though, that's planned anyway for the light that'll be coming in at this intersection. If you remember that little short street over here by the former nursing home is going to be closed. So this is all in line. TxDOT signed off on it all in line with the future plans. But we think they're designing that, they're supposed to be designing that light as we speak. So, so when we actually see that light is obviously in TxDOT's purview, but I think it's I think a really nice upgrade in signage, but it will have that effect on traffic flow over there.
Any questions?
Comments or concerns? No?
Signal light there? On 290?
The Trinity Ranch development, the traffic impact analysis they did dictated the need for light there, and
They've already did that traffic study?
yes.
Yes.
And the developers, that's part of our development agreement with the developer, that they had to do the traffic impact study. They've made a financial commitment to pay for this light and for other improvements on Upper Elgin Road.
And when did they do that study? Was it recent?
It'd been at least a year ago, maybe longer, when they did it. Bo, do you remember?
It was brought to council for approval, and that was probably a little over a year ago. But a development agreement was entered into it. One of the stipulations is the TIA had to come back before council for approval as far as all the improvements. Came back to council, was presented, went through kind of what the improvements were doing. It's a mismatch between some for the light, the TxDOT, some for city roadways, and then also for county roadways, Upper Elgin Road, which will still maintain to be the main entrance to the subdivision once it's built out. And that's, obviously, you guys have seen where that's where the school is currently contemplating going. The elementary is right off of Upper Elgin Road.
Yeah, since you brought it up, Skylar, it is probably a good point to remind folks, it's a unique, this was a unique deal we made relative to traffic impact out there. As you know, as Owen's saying, really, this sign and the road leading up to it are the only part that's in the city limits. The whole development is outside the city limits. So the commitment from the TIA was the developer has agreed to pay his share to widen Upper Elgin Road to 3 lanes, basically from the business park, I guess, or all the way out. However, and he's placed those funds with us or made that commitment. However, those are all county roads. And so, you know, my feeling fairly strongly is the city shouldn't use their money to improve covered roads, exclusively use our money. And so I think before we make that commitment on Upper Elgin Road, we need Bastrop County to agree to partner with us for some of that cost. And we've had those conversations with both our former and our current county commissioners. So, but because the light is wholly in the city limits, and it's our deal with TxDOT, we're moving ahead with the light, but those other improvements will come later. Now, the other part of our development agreement says that Trinity Ranch can build the first, do you remember, about 2 plats, 200 homes maybe?
It's about 200 homes.
The whole development is, the concept plan is about 1,200 homes. But the development agreement says they cannot build more than 200 until they get this other access achieved out to Upper Elgin Road. So there are different triggers in there, but the key is to understand that this isn't the only road that way, but we need to develop a different kind of funding partnership with Bastrop County. The city can do our part through this agreement. We've got the developer to do his part, but shouldn't be exclusively the city's responsibility to improve these roads that aren't in our jurisdiction.
Yeah, but we just don't know how long it's gonna take the county to help us out with it, right?
Well, that's right. I know they got the money, I'll just say that. I've said that to the commissioners, it's a matter of prioritizing it.
Right.
But I would hope, we think the school project is moving forward out there, and I'd hope that's gonna, part of that will front onto Upper Elgin Road. So I would hope by the time they get under construction, we'll have a real plan for upgrading that road.
And what did you say the time frame is on this?
Well, again, it's, the developer is fine till he gets the first 200 homes built on having this access, but the pressure's going to be coming from them. I think for our position, we've made the right deal. We have the right financing in place, but it's the development that's going to drive the need. How soon do we need to do it? And I would assume the school and if Trinity's successful in building the houses and selling the houses they want, they're going to be motivated to move that forward pretty quickly. So from the city standpoint, I think we're ready to start talking about doing it anytime, as soon as we get the right partnership.
TIA is
Thank you.
very dictative on exactly when they have to meet certain steps to ensure that Swenson Boulevard isn't overall impacted and that they get the main entrance off of Upper Elgin Road. And obviously, the city issuing permits and impact fees has control to that. If they don't begin that infrastructure, you can essentially shut them down at that point in time. So very authoritative.
Yeah, Bo makes a good point that our development agreement specifically says that in spite of this work, ultimately the main entrance to Trinity Ranch needs to be off Upper Elgin Road. They've made that commitment. So they'll be doing another entrance similar to this over there. Yes.
Are there, at some point in the future, is it possible that Trinity Ranch will become a part of Elgin inside the city limits?
Unlikely. It says in the agreement, because the way the MUDs are set up, the same with Harvest Ranch, they issue a huge amount of debt themselves and attach that to the properties to pay themselves back. Well, the agreement says we can annex them, but if we do, we have to assume all their debt. So obviously, we're not going to do that. And truthfully, with a MUD, you could also say that, well, someday they'll pay all that off. Well, by that time, just like the city, they'll probably have borrowed more money. And so basically, the agreement says we can annex them, but reality is now I will say Austin's done that a couple times where of course they could afford to, where for strategic reasons they felt like they needed to annex somebody and they were willing to assume the debt. But for all intents and purposes, the developers believe that most of us would never do that if it's a sizable amount. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Owen. Got a little sidetracked there, but I thought it was worth reminding everybody that's the deal.
Okay, any more questions or comments? Now entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve this as presented.
Have a second?
I'll second.
And we will begin with Councilmember Dennis.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes.
McShane, yes?
Gibson, yes.
Sweet, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes. Rodriguez, yes.
Motion carries. The next one is a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute a development and consent agreement with Prima Vista Land Company LLC and making certain findings related to thereof.
Thanks, Mayor. This is an item that actually items 2 and 3 on the agenda are related items that have to do with the item we discussed earlier in the public hearing. This is a tract of land, actually, our first tract of land we're seeing developed south of 290 off County Line Road. You get your bearings where the tract is. As I said earlier, the developer was interested in annexing to the city, but because the property isn't contiguous, we weren't able to do that. So tonight we actually have somewhat of a unique development agreement based on our prior experience with these development consent agreements, and that is that typically we've had developers come forward, I think as council knows, and ask for certain concessions that almost always are focused on smaller lots. And we've certainly had some conversation about proliferation of smaller lots and at the council level, and heard that from other people. But so actually what this development agreement does is, although the developer is not annexing to the city, ironically, the development agreement simply says I'll build to the city's building standards, including zoning. So it means, as you can see here, I think towards the back, that comparatively speaking, there's a commitment through this agreement to actually build larger lots than what we've seen. They're basically R1 lots, our same requirement, but as you know, virtually every other development we've had, including a development agreement we've made with this very developer, was to get smaller lots. But in this case, they believe there's a market for bigger lots, and not all of them may be bigger, but as you can see this layout, the lot size will basically conform to the city zoning code, and they're not asking for any special consideration that way. And then also, there's a commitment to build this arterial roadway through the development. At the present time, back here, we'd assume at some point that road may be necessary to parallel county line road up to 290 or the other direction. So again, this involves some strategic planning similar to what we've done with all other projects. So it's a unique development agreement with the developer, unique in the sense that it's a little different than what we've done before, but it gives us a little variety. It creates housing opportunities south of 290, and the staff would recommend the agreement. The developer, their engineer here tonight, if anybody's has any questions for them.
So they're part of the arterial road, is that going to tie into the one that goes up to Carlson?
I'd say at this point, we don't know.
I mean, would that be in the intention if there was another one that?
It could. Does it go down that far, Bo?
So it would tie in essentially.
Bo, come up, get on the record, sorry.
The idea is very similar to what council has done with the other major arterial road parallel to County Line Road that's going from 290, kind of connecting through West Wind Creek's Crossing, Briarwood, up to 1100 and eventually up to Carlson Lane. That same intersection, if you were to flip it and look in the southwardly direction, is essentially across from the new light at West Wind. If that was a four-way intersection and you took another major arterial that essentially went to a parallel direction to County Line Road heading south. And so.
Well, I think the question was, they won't necessarily marry up.
They will
at
not marry up
intersection.
today, but if it's not there through the planning and laying that out today, then there's no potential that you would have that road or the taxpayers would be paying to do a roadway in the future. So the right-of-way will be there, the infrastructure will be there. So as development comes to the north there, and there are some others that are looking and talking, is we have, as part of the thoroughfare plan, and to be able to show that, hey, this connection has to be made as we develop through here.
So Bo, that road's right here, right?
Yes.
It's gonna come down there. So theoretically, it could.
Yeah, theoretically,
Okay.
the intent is.
That was your question, right?
The answer is
yes. The answer is yes. It's not,
Yeah,
They'll
that was
continue
my,
that effort.
that was my concern was if we have other developers, we will
Absolutely.
include extension of that until they do actually join us.
because we've done that on both sides now, it establishes an expectation. Now the
Right.
next developer knows that they're gonna have to do that, so.
I think it's good forward thinking to have that parallel arterial roads.
I appreciate the respect to larger lots.
Those being Z.
That means they're gonna be ready to buy a house as soon as you build one out there, so.
Okay, any more questions?
Do we have any estimated timeline for this to happen?
It's, all development's market-driven, and we've got other projects that are starting to start up, so we're seeing that lull we had there maybe come back a little bit, but it's tough to nail anybody down on a timeline.
Okay, so entertain a motion for the first part, number 2.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. I know, right? We can have the next one. Okay, that's okay. We'll begin with Mayor Pro Tem Berger.
Frazier, yes.
McShane, yes?
Gibson, yes.
Swain, yes.
Malnado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to number 3, which is part of this one, is a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute a strategic partnership agreement with Prima Vista Land Company LLC and making certain findings related thereto.
So this is an action that's basically required to cement the commitment by the developer to build by the city standards. Strategic partnership agreement is where the property owner may not be in the city limits, but the developer, they make commitments to abide by certain rules. So this is simply the mechanism that ties them to develop in compliance with city standards. I did think, though, this is the 3rd strategic partnership agreement we've done, and I just thought it was worth reminding everybody it does have some unique elements to it when it comes to voting. Because under the law, the property is annexed, but only for this certain purpose. But because it's annexed that way, then there are certain voting rights that extend to the residents that live there. So the folks that live there will be able to vote in city elections or for recall of members. This is straight out of state law. And amendments to the charter, but they can't vote on any, as you might imagine, any bond or debt election because they're not taxpayers. Then, of course, it wouldn't be appropriate them to vote on incurring debt. And they're also residents, while they can vote, they're not eligible to be a candidate for any elected office in the city. So just kind of a new thing, just thought it worth reminding that comes with this strategic partnership agreement.
So will they be
annexation.
added to a certain ward?
Yes, at some point they will.
Okay.
Will that information be given to them prior to their purchase?
Not necessarily by the city, but
It could
we
matter to
can
some
work on
people.
that. It could, that's right.
That's a good point.
And like I said, I guess that's why I thought it was worth reminding them. We have one of these with Brixton, we have one with Harvest Ridge as well, so it is probably worth circulating that information, and we can look to the home sellers to help us do that.
All right, any questions, comments, concerns? Entertain a motion?
I'll make it.
Okay, Chuck. And a second?
Second.
Callahan? Okay, y'all are slow on making those motions. Everybody okay with what? Are there, let me backtrack. Any other questions or concerns? We good? Okay. All right, let's start with Swain.
Swain, yes.
Malnado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes.
McShane, yes.
Gibson, yes.
All right, motion carries. And we move on to number 4, resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute a cost-sharing agreement with Brightland Homes LTD for construction of multiple water distribution main lines in Creeks Crossing and making certain findings related thereto.
Thank you, Mayor. This, actually, it's another one where items 4 and 5 are actually kind of connected, the same thing. These are both agreements that we've done before. Routine Creeks Crossing, which, I wanted to get this, is development that's been around for quite a while, but been talked about, but it's immediately adjacent to West Wind there, kind of north of Elm Creek, and actually the new road we were talking about to create the intersection at the new light will come through there. It's 220 homes or something.
First phase is about
And so both of these agreements, as we've done before, and proper strategic planning and moving forward as we develop our water and sewer system, the developer obviously is compelled to put in his own supply, but is this water, the first one? Basically, these are both water and sewer agreements where we're committing to the developer upsizing the line. And obviously, we're going to pay the difference in the cost. The water will come out of impact fees, just under $250,000, 222,000 is all right.
Did we add access property?
It's in the city limits, yes. We've done this up and down County Line Road. They're kind of in a strategic location to serve other developments. So city engineers looked at this and is recommending that we pay this cost and put the lines in to make them bigger to accommodate other development that'll come on both sides.
Right.
And flow through their system.
We also had water for Brooklyn, right?
No, this would be Creeks Crossing. They've already paid their fees to transfer the CCN to the city, to
That's
Aqua
right.
directly, on previous agreement.
What size are we upsizing to?
12-inch, so mainly to create multiple interior loops with Creeks Crossing, and then eventually Briarwood, which is also tied into this just to the north, is 12-inch lines. This particular development would have only been required to go to 8-inch in order to just service theirs, but that'll help the city maintain pressures as you continue to grow, and should you guys take an additional CCN to provide service to new subdivisions, all being mainly fed from the tower there at the high school.
We did this with Harvest Ridge.
Did it with Harvest Ridge, and we also
Homestead.
did some upsizing with Peppergrass subdivision as well. Essentially, you're paying pennies on the dollar just for the additional diameter of the pipe material and a little bit with the trench, as opposed to paying everything from scratch at a later date to try to upsize.
Yeah, you might recall that this is one of the issues that were in the 21 COs, or I mean, the upsizing with Harvest Ridge and Peppergrass, but we're paying this out of impact fees, which is basically one of the things we collect impact fees for, so.
Yep.
So it's no direct cost to ratepayers or citizens.
Okay, any questions or comments? Nope. All right, I entertain a motion for number 4.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to pass the resolution, item number 4 as presented.
And I'll say,
Okay,
A little faster that time.
we'll begin with Mayor Pro Tem Brozier.
Frazier, yes.
McShane, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Swain, yes.
Monado, yes. Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Motion carries. Number 5 is a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing city manager to execute a cost-saving sharing agreement with Brightland Homes LTD for construction of a wastewater collection main line in the Creeks Crossing and making certain findings related thereto.
Thank you, Mayor. Same thing. Bo, what's the 630,000 about? Again, coming out of wastewater impact fees. What's the upsizing?
We're going from, they would have been required probably close 8 to 10-inch, and we're going to a 24-inch. Why that's such a large increase is this 24-inch is essentially going to follow that major arterial all the way up to Carlson Lane. That's its own drainage. If you were to go out there, you would see that's where naturally water flows down kind of through that cresting area. This will be basically a tributary that parallels Elm Creek. Essentially, it's the next tributary over where you have a 24 going into that. Again, as a master planning, that'll help cover your CCN for sewer north of 290. Everything will go to the Elm Creek lift station. With the future, if the new plant with Brixton goes online and stuff like that, we can divert flow to the new plant as opposed to the existing plant and allow additional capacity in the existing plant. So it's all been laid out by drainage areas to make sure that we can pick up everything that's within y'all's CCN and continue to provide that service as developments come in.
And just the timing question I asked earlier, all of this is an indication that they're ready to start building homes.
We actually had the pre-construction meeting this morning, so they'll be mobilizing to site in the next week or two to the contractor out there to start on the first phase. The first phase of the project actually does include that major arterial roadway for the subdivision. So that'll be built as part of their first phase. They have a second and third phase that's about the same size as the first, that they've already submitted construction plans on, and we would assume they're just gonna roll directly into it. Obviously, assuming the home build keeps up, but we were able to get the major arterial roadway built in there first, foremost.
Yeah, I think Sue may remember that, I think this project's been around since I've been here.
It
was
has
called-
been kicked around under a lot of
It's
different
called
names.
Caesar's Crossing there
Yeah,
for a while.
Caesar's Crossing, it's.
So yeah, but it is an example of what we talked about earlier. It's been a project on paper but for whatever reason, didn't start. But they had, Brightland Homes is obviously a builder, so they're ready to start.
So I know Mayor Pro Tem is thinking 24-inch. So part of the master plan is this, yes, it will go into the West Wind lift station, but part of the master plan out is that a lift station will go away and will eventually gravity all the way to Elm Creek. So that's all been laid out and figured out already.
Glad you answered my question before you even got it out. Realizing that the sewer CCN goes almost to Maynard, if you didn't remember already.
I don't remember, where does the access to the property, where the division's gonna take?
So they will be building a brand new, the major arterial roadway will actually intersect with Westward Sky Boulevard, and they'll be redoing that median and everything to accommodate that. And then there's.
Right there where that kind of comes together to a point, that's all gonna be rebuilt.
Right there.
But that's
So
where we have that
north of
new
Klaus
light,
Lane,
too.
though. And what they'll do is essentially that median will be extended to where you can't necessarily get to Klaus Lane, and you'll have that access off the major arterial roadway to get over there. In addition, there'll be two different, I believe it's two, don't quote me, two different dead-end streets that are in West Wind. Those will also be interconnected with the new subdivision as well. And then.
I get it, not turning left right there.
Yeah, this will be interconnected, West Wind and this subdivision will be interconnected with Briarwood, which is immediately to the north, which we also had a pre-construction today on.
Yeah, I think on those interconnecting streets, something went to the plan commission about this, right? And so
Yes.
people were aware of that. We had people come that are used to having, almost, you have a dead-end street that's like a private driveway if you live there. Well, those streets are gonna open, but,
Yeah.
so, that was a meeting where property owners attended, so people are aware that's gonna happen out there.
The HOA is very well aware, they actually sold property to this development specifically for the roadway and the positioning and whatnot of it, so.
That's right.
Okay, any more questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make it.
Swain and Gibson. All right. And we'll begin with Swain.
Swain, yes.
Monmouth, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Frazier, yes?
McShane, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Hey, before we got off that one, Bo, I'm really gonna blur it. Is this the triangle piece that's being worked on now?
No,
Everybody asked me, is it off the map here?
No, it's on the map,
Is
it's
that the-
actually in that orange,
Right here?
a little bit to your right, keep going to your right. Yeah, down there, you can faintly see kind of a triangle track there.
No, the one everybody thinks is Brixton now,
That's the Poth Track South. It's kind of
It's
covered
that
with
one?
the orange. And the reason for that, it's the same builder who's building the homes back there.
Yeah, yeah. It's right in there. I guess I think I've answered that enough for council members, but if you recall, it's a triangular shaped piece that we made an agreement where the developer is building homes at the back, but the first 300 feet, 500 feet, he agreed to leave for commercial property fronting on, if you remember that one. But Yeah, we've had a number of people assume that was Brixton starting, but it is not, so.
It looks a lot.
Okay, number 6, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the city manager to award a bid for the water well number 17 construction project to Hydro Resources and Continent Incorporated of Creedmoor, Texas, and making certain findings related thereto.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, oh, yeah, this is the one I wanted to use. You recall when we did the COs, we put in that water well 10. This was part of Bo's effort to confuse the city manager, but water well 10 is the old water well. What we meant by this project in the COs was we were going to replace water well 10 with a new water well, and that's what will be number 17.
Correct.
So that's why part of this money, $900,000 of this cost, is funded through the COs, and the rest will come out of water impact fees. Bo, do you have any, anything else to
Water well
add?
predates myself. It's been there for a long time, for over 20 years. It's been.
10 or 17?
Say what?
10?
10. 17's not there yet, so, but it feels like, it's been talked about for a long time, getting water well 10 replaced. It's been able to produce less and less over the years. It's probably down to just above half of its capacity of what it used to be. This is essentially a replacement of that, and to bring it back to what our normal pumping conditions we would expect from that particular area of the, we're going a little bit deeper and getting it up close to about 1,000 GPM again, which is pretty standard for what you guys are seeing across y'all's wells. This will be your 4th well, and it'll bring you the city back up to 4 wells. You still have a lot of acre feet still to go, so this doesn't put you at a maximum of the amount of water you're able to draw from Los Pines Groundwater District, but this does give the ability a lot more for the operators to switch out different wells for different water products at the plant, and gives a better rotation and able to let some wells rest and recharge rather than having to run them. So this will allow the city back to, I would consider, more normal operations of how it's been done.
Well, for high-producing wells, too.
Yeah.
So even though we had 4 operating, we haven't been at this level, what this will
For a long
provide
time.
for a long time. There was you may recall, there was a property acquisition with this, and so we've worked all that out, so we're ready to go. And just for the record, $900,000 from COs, about $850 from water impact fees. But this is, I think these are both really good projects we've talked about here back to back, that sometimes people want to know, why do I have to pay impact fees? This is exactly what it's for. So as new homes come on, as new properties come on, we are continually upgrading our system to accommodate those new homes. So this is another example where the system works for us on that.
Any questions, comments?
One quick question. You mentioned 10 is about producing about half what it should be.
It's down in the low 600s when it was producing. It's the amount of effort to run it based on the pumps, and if you have to basically run it with another water well in order to actually generate enough water for the plant to operate effectively, it's almost gotten to the point where it's more effort to try to run it as opposed to just not having it run on a day-to-day basis. So the city tends to rely on 15 and 16 right now, as number 14 is being rehabbed.
I was trying to think exactly how old it was.
Bodeker days.
Yeah, that's like 2 people on this city council weren't born yet.
Alrighty then.
So where's this going to be located?
This is out, it's literally within the limits that you're able to for TCQ from water well number 10, kind of out Old McDade area. On there, it's on a private property. Part of the property acquisition was a land swap with the existing property owner. We're going to abandon the existing well and turn over that property back to them, and then subsequently purchase the property for this new well. It'll already be designed, it incorporates the portable generator being able to be hooked up to it from the day that it's turned on, so that you guys are able to utilize that.
Did you just say purchase the land 17 is going to be on?
It was
Yeah,
a
they
land
do a
swap,
small
and
purchase.
small
So
purpose,
what-
yeah,
okay.
so.
Okay.
Been approved by TCEQ and Los Pines, so it's permitted, ready for construction. Prior to going back into operation, it will have to go back to TCEQ, and they'll certify that it can go into production for the city.
Okay, any other questions? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 6 as presented.
And a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. We'll begin with Mayor Pro Tem Brazier.
Frazier, yes.
McShane, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Monado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Motion carries. Number 7, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute a change order with CSA Construction for the relocation of a generator to the water well site number 14 as part of the wastewater treatment plant expansion project, and making certain findings related thereto.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is actually representative of a cool project that we're pleased with, that we kind of made up on the fly, that Bo, again, helped us with. It's emergency generator for a water well, but we're tying it to the wastewater treatment plant project and that contract because it's just easier for us to do it that way. But as you may recall, with our new sewer plant expansion project, we're really upgrading that facility, and part of that project includes a new generator and a new emergency generator that we're compelled to have. You remember, we've had that conversation that cities aren't required to have backup generators at water plants, but you are required for a sewer plant. If you think about it for a minute, I guess you can figure out why. So we have the new generator programmed in for the wastewater plant, but when we got started on that project, we thought about the existing generator we have there and did it have any useful life in it. And so TRC did a specific analysis of the viability of the old generator, and their analysis tells us that generator still has plenty of useful life in it. So we came up with the idea we'll take the old generator that'll be replaced by a new generator at the wastewater plant, but move that old generator out to water well number 14. And it'll be just serves as another step along the way that we've talked about before once we get this sewer plant project done, Pistol Hill gets done, we'll literally have a water and wastewater system that theoretically can be independently operated by our own in-house power systems. Not all at once, but we'll have the capability to run the plants, both the plants, produce water, send it to the plant, water treated, send it to Pistol Hill, have that station send treated water into the towers. So these are really big steps for us, but this was a great idea Bo and TRC came up with that is an effective use of our existing equipment and only cost us this contract to have it moved. So we're actually, the action tonight is just added as a change order to the contractor doing the wastewater treatment plant project, and we'll get it located, and we'll just have another water well with independent power supply that will help us in times of emergencies.
This is 100% at the well site, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
this generator, they'll pour a slab and they will permanently hook it up to the water well, and an automatic transfer switch that's already out there as part of y'all's other winterization plans. So it'll be permanently left there at the water well.
the plants, the water well, all new lift stations, Pistol Hill, they're all going to have permanent on-site devoted backup power supply. Some of our smaller pump stations, sewer pump stations, Bo was referencing earlier, we've now wired them where they have quick connections, but in their case, we'll use the portable generator if they break down, and we can run out there and hook them up right away and make them run. And I guess I should add to that we're, don't forget, we have an emergency generator at the rec center, and we'll be building one at the new police station too, so we might start selling power here pretty soon, and just making it run the other way, making everybody's water meter go the other way, or electric meter go opposites. No, I think we all know the kind of work Bo does for us, but I just thought this was really a good idea and save the city some money, and somebody else might have just thrown out a perfectly good generator, but we're putting it to good use.
Any more questions? You'll entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
And we'll begin with Councilman Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Fraser, yes.
McShane, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Monato, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Motion carries. And there's no executive session. We'll move on to announcements.
We should just start calling this Amy's announcements, I think. We'll just do that in
The Amy hour.
yeah.
I get, people send me the list before the meeting, so it's not just Amy. Do want to clarify for folks that Circle Brew is having their ribbon cutting on Saturday regardless of the weather. And so the speeches are at noon and the cutting of the ribbon is at 12:15. If you miss it, there will still be beer to drink, but then you won't be in the cool pictures. So definitely encourage you to arrive before noon. We're going to be timely and we're going to be effectively prompt. We are doing an info welcome booth because we've got a lot of folks coming in to check out Circle and our great town. So glad to have company for that if you're available. And over the course of the weekend, starting Friday night with Music in the Park, and all day Saturday, it's Explore Elgin Art and Culture. And that's our showcase spring event carried over from the Sesquicentennial. So you'll be able to enjoy a maker's market that's been moved to El Maguey and the Chamber of Commerce because of rain, and all kinds of studio tours and activities at the library. We've got Parks and Rec and the library teaming up. Depending on the weather, we will probably be all inside here, and just all kinds of great things happening. So don't let the weather keep you from having a good time this weekend. And it does look like there might be sun on Friday night, so we hope that Music in the Park will be in the park on Friday night. But just keep your eyes on those social media channels and check out the website, and you'll have the latest and greatest news. And lots of good things going on.
Did you get the Peterson Brothers rescheduled yet?
We do. You can look forward to the Peterson Brothers on June 30th. All right. Y'all have a
Thanks,
good
Amy.
evening.
Okay, we do, I just want to make mention that we did receive last week a proclamation from Representative Stan Gertis, District 17, for our wonderful sesquicentennial events that we had. And so I want to make sure y'all know that he did send something in to us. Okay, is that it? All right. It is 7:40.